Yeah, the introduction to the Aseret Libris goes as follows. Vayidaber Elikim, es kol advarim ha'eleh. Kadosh Baruch Hu spoke all these words. Leimor, saying. Now, what does leimor mean, Eli? He's speaking to Klal Yisrael. Normally, it's Hashem giving a message to Moshe Rabbeinu. Vayidaber Shem Moshe leimor, daber b'nei Yisrael v'masa alehem. So the leimor is the Ibazogin. But here, Kadosh Baruch Hu is speaking to Klal Yisrael. So what's the leimor? Ariel, you got the kasha? Yeah, you got the kasha. What's the leimor? Yeah, normally it's a message to Moshe Rabbeinu.
Guys, leave it.
Yeah, we're managed now. We're right. Yeah. So he's saying leimor. But we're here, Kadosh Baruch Hu is speaking to Klal Yisrael. So what's leimor? Says the Meshech Chochmah. Says the Meshech Chochmah. This leimor, he says, like the Rambam explains, he said, the fact that Kadosh Baruch Hu came down b'chvod of Atzmai, and we saw this, was so that Klal Yisrael will tell this over to their children. We didn't believe in Moshe Rabbeinu because of some signs, any signs and wonders he did. It's because we saw, our eyes saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu come down and speak to Moshe Rabbeinu, go and tell this to Klal Yisrael, go and tell that to Klal Yisrael. So this statement, this Ma'amad HaSinai, is Vayidaber Elikim Eskol Advarim Ha'eleh to Klal Yisrael, leimor, to pass it on to their children and the children's children till the end of days. That's why it was done in this format, a public revelation. Now, we need some good, who's good at maths? Shimi, you good at maths? How many words are in this pasuk? Vayidaber Elikim Eskol Advarim Ha'eleh leimor. 7 words. And if you count the letters up, you have to believe me, 28 letters. The first pasuk in the Torah, Bereshis, Bara, Elikim, Eis, Hashemayim, Ve'eis, Oretz. 7 words. Count all the letters, 28 letters. And Yehei Shmei Rabba, Yehei Shmei Rabba, Mavarach Le'olam, Le'omei Almaya. It's 7 words and 28 letters. What's the connection? It's an amazing chazal. The Baal Tzum brings it. It says, Kol ha'oineh, Omein Yehei Shmei Rabba, B'chol koichai. If you answer Omein Yehei Rabba with all your energy, all your intensely, this is what the Chazal say. Ki'ilu nasa shutav l'HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'maaseh bereshis. You become a partner with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the creation of the world. Or ki'ilu kibul ha'Torah ma'asinai, as if you received the Torah on Har Sinai. So what's the link? So the immediate link is 7 words, 28 letters. What's the connection? Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu create this world? To give Kavod Shamayim. Okay? How do we know what to do to bring Kavod Shamayim? He gave us the Torah, said, here's the book, read the manual, and you'll know what to do. So when you answer, Yehei Shemei Rabba Mavarach Le'olam, Hashem's name should be made great forever and ever and ever. You're fulfilling the purpose of creation, Bereshis Bara Elikim. And how do you know what to do? Ki Elikim LaTorah Me'asina, which tells you what to do, how to bring about the Kavod Shamayim. It's an amazing little piece of Torah. Now, starts off, guys, you want to hear this one? This is very fundamental.
Let's go.
Things which we know about it, we know it's a mitzvah, but exactly what is the mitzvah? So tonight it's a little bit nitty gritty on mitzvahs, but very fascinating. I've chosen 2 or 3, which of course are very, very applicable. So the first one is Anochi mitzvah say, Anochi Hashem Elikecha. I am Hashem your God, Asher Hitzisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, who I personally brought you out of Mitzrayim. Mi beis avodim. So I'll just read out a few lines from the Sefer Chinuch. He says, this mitzvah is, what is the mitzvah of emunah? He says, lahamin, to believe. Sheyesh la'olam Eloya echad. The world has one God. Shehimtzi kol hanimsa, who brought into existence everything which exists. Umikoichoi v'chefsa hoya kol mashu. Whatever exists in the world comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He is the Almighty. V'shehaya, v'sheyiyeh la'ad, he was, is, and will be forever. But that's not good enough. That's not good enough. That's only half the mitzvah. V'chihu ha'itzianu me'eretz Mitzrayim v'noso lono setorah. A chelik of this mitzvah of emunah is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim and gave us the Torah. And he quotes this pasuk, Pirusha kilu ama. Teidu, you have to know, But ta'aminu and believe sheyesh la'olam eloya, because the word anoichi means, doesn't mean I. It means I exist. Ani means I. But anoichi means like ich bin. Yeah, I am. I am. For real. Torah alam it says Hashem's existence. Now, then he says Hashem Seisicha Me'es Mitzrayim. Loima that tells us Shlo Yefatel Levavchem Lekachas Inyan Seischa Me'avdus Mitzrayim U'Makis HaMitzrayim Derech Mikra. You mustn't think coming out of Mitzrayim was just by chance, and the Makkahs just happened to happen. Not at all. Ela Du'u, you must know. She'anoichi Hu She'etzeis Yeschem B'Chefetz U'V'Hashkocha. I took you out because I wanted to take you out, and I took you out with my guiding hand, like he promised that obviously he would do. So what's the reason of this mitzvah? Says the Chinuch, I don't need to explain the reason. He says, Shorish mitzvah zu ein tzorich bil, yodu av nigla. It's obvious. Ki ha'amuna azois yisoid hados. This belief is the very foundation in which the whole Torah rests on this mitzvah. V'asher lo yamin b'zeh. Somebody who doesn't believe this, koifer be'ika, he denies the whole Torah in one swoop. Ve'ein le chelik u'zuchusim Yisrael. He's got no chelik with Klal Yisrael. No shaykhs to Klal Yisrael. If a person doesn't believe, he hasn't got emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu and emunah in Hashgacha Pratis. Says the Chinuch, V'zois min ha-mitzvah she'ein, this mitzvah applies to men and women, V'zois min ha-mitzvah she'ein lehem zman yodua. There's no fixed time for this mitzvah. She'kol yemei ha'adam, every day you're alive, every moment you're alive, chayav lichos b'machshava zu, you must live with this machshava. Now that doesn't mean you think about it all day, because you've got other things to do and think about. But any time in the day where you stop for a second and you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu exists and He's real and He created everything and He's Mashkiach, you fulfill this mitzvah. If you're tossing and turning at night, you can't fall asleep, and you think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you fulfill this mitzvah. There's no time bound, there's no day, there's no night. Every second you're alive, you have to live with this emunah. This is like your membership card into the Jewish religion. Emunah. So that's the positive of Anochi Hashem Elikecha, Asher Seisicha Me'es. Now there's a loy saseh attached to it. Shloi namin elehim zelosi Hashem Yisbarach levatei. A person is not allowed to believe, is not allowed to exist in his mind, a concept that there's someone else besides Hashem. Shenema lo yeh lecha lehim acherim al panai. You can't believe, the word yeh means should not exist in your thought process that there is anyone else up there besides Hashem. And he says the words are, he says, Chazal say, V'zois ha-mitzvah here, ha'ika ha-gadol shebetorah, sha'kol tolelov. These two mitzvahs, and these are the two mitzvahs we heard every word from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we understood each word. The other 8, there's a machlokas, whether we heard them, we definitely heard Hashem's voice, but did Moshe Rabbeinu have to explain what we heard? But everyone agrees, the Rambam and the Ramban, everyone agrees, the first 2, we heard it crystal clear. Now this is very, very important. Number 1, Chazgul, Klal Yisrael wanted to hear Hashem speak. So it makes sense, Hashem would let them hear clearly the boss, who's speaking to them and who is now telling them what to do. Number 1. But there's a very interesting medrash which says, any reward Klal Yisrael eat in this world, since we came on the scene 3,300 years ago till Mashiach comes, it's in the schar of emunah. In the schar of emunah. What does it mean, the schar of emunah? So I saw a wonderful explanation. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. There's a halacha about paying workers on time. There's a mitzvah say of b'yom moititin schara. On the day that he completes the work, mitzvah say to pay up on time. So why does Hashem reward us in Olam Haba? We're alive now in this world. The mitzvahs are done in this world. Yisrael. So how come Hashem pays the reward? How does it work? So says the halacha is, it's only if the guy or the person who is hiring the workers does it himself. If he sends his manager to hire the workers, then you don't have to pay on the day. That mitzvah doesn't apply. It's only if the Bala Malacha, the owner of the work, personally hires somebody to do a job, then there's a mitzvah say to pay on the day. But if you do it by a third party, an agency or something, then there's no mitzvah to pay on the day. So he said like this, all the mitzvahs of the Torah, we were told by Moshe Rabbeinu. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, instructed us to do it via his manager. But Anochi v'lo yeh lecha, we heard directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays in this world. Kol Mashi Shon Oichel B'Amalek is B'Schar HaEmunah. Because the Emunah we heard crystal clear the mitzvah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then Hashem doesn't wait to let him above. That you get in this world. To live with your Emunah and the Schar you get for it, that is all in this world. Because that we all heard directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, you get the rest of the Torah, then you get Peres B'Elam Hazeh. You get a dividend in this world. But the Karen, Hashem keeps it for where we need it more in Olam Haba. Because there, we were, so to speak, hired, taken on by Moshe Rabbeinu on behalf of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, there's no din of B'yomai Titein Sechara. Now, let's just jump a little bit to, so you got, if you look carefully, Rav points this out, and it's the Sfonis has a similar idea. How many mitzvahs Moshe were on each side of the Luchos? 5. Okay? Now, just a bit interesting, I forgot to say before. The Mabit says they were the same size, the Luchos, yeah, were 6 tefachim by, I think 3 tefachim, 5 tefachim wide. They were the same size, but they were square, by the way. That round bit at the top, there's a bit, some painters added it on, some famous painting, I think, added it on. Yeah? They were exactly the same size, but most of the writing, by the way, how many letters are there in the, how many words are there in the Aseret Dibros? Does anyone know? Oh, you count there. There's actually 172. If you count them up, there's 172. And believe it or not, amazingly, quite amazingly, there's 620 letters, corresponding to the 630 mitzvahs min HaTorah and the 7 mitzvahs the Rabbanon. Amazing. Now, most of the wording, though, if you look at it, is on the first side of the Luchos, Ben Adam La Moko. Ben Adam La Chaver is very quick. Lo Sitzach, Lo Sinach, Lo Signov, Lo Sanah Berech Shachar, Lo Sachmoid, very short. About 90% or 85% of the words are on the first half. So now, if they're both symmetrical and the same size, but most of the wording's on the first side, Ben Adam La Moko, the lettering of the Ben Adam La Moko would have been smaller. And to take it the same space, the letters on the Ben Adam La Chaveiro were much bigger. Now, imagine Moshe Rabbeinu who's coming down the mountain approaching Klal Yisrael. What would your eye have picked up first? You're going to, wow, they're the Luchos. What would your eye have seen first? Ben Adam La Chaveiro. They were the bigger letters. They would hit your eye would have picked it up beforehand. Chashbon was making a message here. Don't neglect Ben Adam La Chaveiro. Even before you see Ben Adam La Makom, you're going to see the Ben Adam La Chaveiros first. Right. So you got 5 and 5. On these 5, you've got, on the 5 Ben Adam La Makom, starts off, Anochi v'lo yeh lecha, that's Emunah, that's in the mind. That's the 1 and 2. Number 3 is Lo Sisa Hashem, don't say Hashem's name in vain. That's in the mouth, speech. Okay? And then you've got Shabbos, keeping Shabbos, refraining from Malacha, and then Kibbut of Aim, which is doing an action and helping your parents, being Mechabed your parents, Mora of Aim. So it starts off in the mind, and it works its way through speech into your actions as you work your way down the Luchos. On the other side, Ben Adam La Chaveiro, the other way around. Starts off with actions. Don't murder, don't steal, don't commit adultery. They're actions. Then it goes to speech. Don't give false eidos. And then it goes to the heart and the mind. Don't be jealous of other people. Goes the other way around. Yeah? From an action to speech to machshava. Whereas Ben Adam La Makom starts the other way around. Starts with machshava, what you must believe. Then it goes to speech, not saying Hashem's name in vain. And then it goes to actions in Shabbos and Kibbut of Aim. So what's the reason? So it says Rav Hirsch, and the Sfonis says a similar idea. Very beautiful. He said, Emunah is not complete if it stays in your head. Your Emunah has to control the way you speak and the way your actions as well. It's got to go all the way through to be true Emunah. That's in Ben Adam La Makom. So it starts off in Machshava, but it's got to be seen the way you speak. Careful how you say Hashem's name. And also in your actions, it's got to be the actions of Emunah, keeping Shabbos and honouring parents. But Ben Adam La Chaveiro says starts the other way around. The first thing is, don't physically harm anybody. Starts off with actions. Don't harm, don't steal, don't kill. Not only that, be careful what you say. Don't say things which hurt other people. Don't give false eidos. Even that you must be careful with. And then the Torah says a chiddush. Even that you've got to go all the way with your Ben Adam La Chaveiro, even in your mind, in your heart. You don't hate people in your heart. You don't think badly about people in your heart. Your Ben Adam La Chaveiro's got to penetrate all the way through into your emotions as well. But that starts with an action. First, don't harm anybody in action. Then control your speech. regarding other people, and then even your thoughts and your emotions towards other people, that should also be perfected by the mitzvahs of the Torah. Very, very beautiful observation. Now, so let's go to, so we've got Shabbos. I'm going to read out a few lines of the chinuch here as well. Beautiful, beautiful words. And he says why we make kiddush on wine. That's not min Torah, by the way. That's midrabanan. But the reason for wine is very interesting. He says like this. The mitzvah, it says, Zocher es yom ha-Shabbos le kadshoy. So Zocher is always with your speech, like, Zocher es ha-Shabbos le Amalek. You got to lay in the passion of Amalek. Yeah, Zocher always means with speech. So he says, L'daber devarim b'yom Shabbos b'hikontso v'chein b'yitziasoi. You got to speak about Shabbos when Shabbos comes in, and also when Shabbos leaves. Havdalah. Sheyir b'hem zeiche gedulas hayom u'ma'alosoi v'havdalosoi. So with the greatness of the day when it comes in, and when it leaves, l'shavach, for praise, mishah hayomim, from the rest of the week, shalafon of days before, v'achram of days afterwards. Now, so he says, you take a cup of wine, he says with the halachas, and he says, now what's the purpose of it? He says, you need to think about Shabbos. It's a special day. There's a certain greatness in the day. And that will give you time to think about Hashem creating the world and resting on Shabbos every Shabbos, so that emunah, that Hashem created this world, will have a time and space. You're not going to be busy to think about it, and you'll imprint it. He says you'll implant it in your mind. Now, why over a cup of wine? Says the chinuch. Listen to these words. People like drinking wine. You get excited when you're holding a cup of wine. That was the traditional alcoholic drink. He said, it fills you up and also cheers you up. He said, and when something excites you, it makes a big impact on you. So to make Kiddush more powerful and more exciting, Chazal said, do it over a cup of wine. So now, what's the halacha if you prefer chalas than wine? What's the din? You do. You make Kiddush on chalas, because then the chalas is going to excite you more, because you prefer chalas. So then he asks a wonderful question. Why have dollar then? Can you only do it on wine or beer, chamam at dinner, but you can't do it over chalas? He said, because it's not going to happen on Motzei Shabbos, because you just had Shalosh Shudas. So food you just eaten. So food there's not going to make an impact on you. But a cup of wine or a cup of beer, whatever will. Masha'ek, when Shabbos comes in, you're hungry. You've not eaten yet. So now, either wine or chalas will have its impact. Now, there's a very beautiful Rashi. So the Torah says, Zochar es yom HaShabbos l'kadshoy. Remember the Shabbos day to make it holy. So Rashi says, what does it mean? Tenu leiv, pay attention, lizkor tomid es yom HaShabbos. You should have Shabbos in the back of your mind all week, Ariel. If you find something nice, a good piece of meat, or a nice bottle of wine, or something, something nice, tehei mazmina l'Shabbos, buy it and put it aside for Shabbos. So all week, you're on the lookout for Shabbos. So the Ramban asked a wonderful question. He said, this is a Gemara in Masechet Beitza. He said, and it happens to be the opinion of Shammai, not the opinion of Hillel. Okay? The Gemara says like this, beautiful Gemara. Tanya. They said about Shammai the elder, Kol Yomov haya oichel l'chvod Shabbos. His whole life, he ate l'kavod Shabbos. Now, how do you eat l'kavod Shabbos on Sunday to Friday afternoon, eh?
If you found something nice on Sunday.
Very good. So, Motzah behemoth noeh. So he found a nice animal. Oimei would say, zu l'Shabbos. Next day, Motzah acheres noeh meno. He found a better one. Maniach es hashniya. He put the second one aside for Shabbos. And very interestingly, v'oichel eser rishon, and he ate the first one. Now, we'll come back to that in a minute. Aval Hillel hazokim mid acheres hoisle. Hillel had a different approach to Shabbos food. Shekol ma'asov l'shem shemayim. Everything Hillel did, whenever he ate, on a regular day, he used to eat l'shem shemayim. He didn't eat just to eat. He ate to have koyach to serve Hashem. He ate with very lofty reasons. Shenem Baruch Hashem yom yom. He was confident that every day you get what you need. So on Friday, Hashem will help me find the best animal of the week for Shabbos, the best box of chocolates of the week for Shabbos. Listen to this Rashi. Rashi says, here, Oicheles Rishona, so he ate the first one. Nimsa Oichel Lezu, he ate the one he bought on Sunday. He ate it on Monday. Kadesh Hayofes, and the better one, Necheles b'Shabbos, will be eaten on Shabbos. To have achilos Rishona, so the eating of the first one was lekavod Shabbos. Says the Ksav Sof, I don't understand. Why is eating the first one kavod Shabbos? Well, you eat on Shabbos in the kavod Shabbos. Why was eating the first one, even if let's say he wouldn't have eaten the first one at all, and left the better one for Shabbos, so the better one was left for Shabbos. So why? Because he ate the first one, yeah? He was eating the kavod Shabbos by eating the first one, so he left the other one. Whatever he would have done, had he just had bread on that day, not meat, so when he has the better one he bought, he eats on Shabbos, that's the better one for Shabbos. Says the Ksav Sofer, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. The Gemara says in Ksubas, the Gemara says on a pasuk, it says, Kol Yimei Oni Yiroim. All the days of a poor man are bad. He has a rough ride. But Tov Lei, if someone's got a good heart, Mishnah Tomid, it's like parties the whole time. He's like, for him, life is like one big party. So the Gemara asks, what do you mean Kol Yimei Oni Yiroim? Every day a poor man is bad. He's got Shabbos and Yom Tov to enjoy. At least Shabbos and Yom Tov he'll enjoy. So the Gemara says, no, Kiddishmu. The problem is, he eats so little during the week. When he comes to have a big challenge on Shabbos, he's so full up, he gets such stomachache because he's not used to eating such good food and in such quantities. Even now because Shabbos, he has sorrows with indigestion and constipation on Shabbos because his stomach can't take it. So the Ksav Sofer, that's what Shammai understood. Shammai didn't eat meat during the week, Stamazor. He would have just kept it for Shabbos. But Shammai realised, if I only eat meat on Shabbos, I won't enjoy Shabbos either, because it's going to affect my stomach. So he dafke ate the first one, and the second one, and the third one during the week, so he would enjoy the best one for Shabbos. He had to eat the first one. Brilliant. So that's what Rashi's telling us. Yeah? So he was taka oichel on Shabbos, because he could only enjoy Shabbos by virtue of eating the meat on thing. I'll tell you something funny. It's not much happened to me. As a kid, we had a fair amount of meat at home. Certainly, I can't remember so much during the week, but certainly Shabbos a fair amount. And I never had any problems. Since I got married and I had to buy a pay for it myself, so I conveniently moved on to chicken. And to be honest, I do like my schnitzel, so I'm very happy with schnitzel. Yom Tov, you get some meat. Anyway, when my younger brother Chaim, when the daughter was born, so he had to wait 7-8 years, so it was a big kiddish. He had a pot the size, he got a pot from Ushi. It was unbelievable how big, he probably climbed into this pot. I can't remember how many kilos of meat he stuffed into the cholent. The kiddish he made was a Gavaldi kiddish. And me, not used to eating meat, I helped myself. One plate, another plate, third plate. I even took after Shabbos, I came back, filled up a container of cholent, froze it for next Shabbos. It was such a good cholent. Oh, yeah. Till Tuesday. I could make... as long as you can make up on that Shabbos, I was suffering. It was. I just wasn't used to eating meat in such quantities. So when I saw this Ksav Sofer, I knew straight away what he meant. Right? It's a thing. So he said that was Shammai's gadlus. So he knew to enjoy Shabbos, he had to have this system. So he said, but what's Pshat in Hillel? So he said he heard a Pshat from his father, the Chasm Sofer. He said Hillel's eating was so l'shem Shemaim. Whenever he ate, it was a mitzvah. He was making the mitzvah of eating. So he said, the Hillel therefore had complete confidence, if I'm doing it for a mitzvah, Hashem won't make me lose out, and on Friday I'll find the best piece of meat during the week. This is what he says. The amazing thing, he says, Shammai, perhaps a little bit stricter on himself, didn't feel he could do that. So therefore, to make sure he had the best piece for Shabbos, he would already on Sunday, he was already worried about meat for Shabbos. So says the Chasm Sofer, he said, that's why Rashi's gone with Beis Shammai. If Shammai himself wasn't so convinced he could do it, then we certainly can't be convinced, and we've got to do it from Sunday already, be thinking about Shabbos. He said that's what Rashi has explained. He's gone with Shammai. He said because everyone agrees he's got to go with Shammai. The Ramban asked this question, Grada, and he says something very beautiful. He said there was no argument between Hillel and Shammai. Hillel agrees all week thinking about Shabbos, whether you say Yom Rishon on Shabbos, whether you're buying stuff for Shabbos. Some people only have coffee on Shabbos, things like that. Anything you can do during the week connected to Shabbos, you fulfill this mitzvah. He said Hillel had a personal thing. It's very interesting Kiddush. He said so Shammai extended Shabbos into his eating during the week, and he do it to the counting. He says Hillel wanted to perfect his midas habitachon. Hillel worked on his bitachon, and he used eating for Shabbos as a way to perfect his bitachon. That he didn't go shopping all week. That every Friday when he went shopping to work on it, he'd find the best piece. He said, but that's a very personal chumrah. That's a very personal madrega. So he says Hillel agrees with Shammai, no problem at all doing that. This was just a personal thing. So therefore he said there's no machlokas, and therefore Rashi has gone with Shammai because even Hillel agrees with Shammai. That's for most people that's the right thing to do. So it's a big chiddush. It means you're allowed to test out your bitachon. You are allowed to test yourself out and see if you're up for it, because that's what Hillel used to do. That's how the Ramban understands it. Which is, maybe you thought, you know what you're holding, so what you're trying. But it seems to me you can push yourself and see what you're capable of. It would seem to be you can do it. Okay. So then we get, now this is very interesting. This is very, very fascinating. Just on the next one, it's Kabbalah Avicha Vesimecha. So Chazal have an amazing drasha on this pasuk. So it should say Kabed Avicha Veimecha. That's what it should say. S and Gam in the Torah is always an inclusion. It's always to include something else. So what does the Gemara say? So, no. So Es Avicha includes a stepmother. S, somebody who's connected to your father. If a person's mother's passed away and his father remarries, he's got to honour his stepmother because it's his father's wife. Okay, but right? Because that's the reason. Because it's only because of his father, yeah? So if his father's not alive anymore, then it doesn't apply, yeah? And Esimech is the same idea. If his mother remarries as a stepfather, by virtue of his mother, he has to honour her husband. Not him intrinsically, no chiv on him. Through his mother, there's a chiv. So what's the vav, the extra vav? So the Gemara says, the rabbis, achicha hagadol. To include your older brother. The question is, every older brother or just the oldest brother you've got? There's a debate. So ask the Minchas Chinuch, he says a few very interesting things. He said, we know, part of Kibbutz Aim is you don't call your parents by their first name. So are you allowed to call your older brother by his first name? This is very clever, no? Because that's a chelik of the common, isn't it? So he says like this, it's very interesting. He says, where is it? Yeah, one minute. So he says, he said, if the Torah includes stepfather, stepmother, and older brother, it's going to have the same parameters as kibbud avim. Ach misad svara, he says, logic dictates the kiv and the kibbud mosra hakosav lechachomim. What exactly is the honoring your father and honoring your mother? The Torah gave it over to Chazal to decide what's covered and what's moira. So he says, "Im came but aviv v'imay shaykh becovered shaloli kroyos and mishmar ukadayma." He said, Chazal understood part of honoring your parents is you don't call them by their first name. They have a title, Abba, Ima, Tati, Mami, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, you give them a title. He said, "Aval achiv efshet einzeh bechlal achibur." He said, but Chazal understood to a brother that's not being mechaber a brother. By not calling him by his first name, it's not a lack of respect to a brother. And he says, Lemaisa, you never find anywhere. We don't find anywhere, any source at all, which says you can't call your older brother by his first name. That's one point he mentions. Then he says another thing. The Gemara says a famous shaila. What happens if your father says, make me a cup of tea, and the same moment your mother says, make me a coffee? So what do you do? Father. Who do you bring first? The Gemara says, you bring your father first, because you and your mother have to respect your father. So you give it to your father first, and then you get your mother a cup of coffee.
You're allowed to do them both at the same time.
If you can do it. I don't. Yeah, probably delaying. Yeah, probably is. Yeah. So he asks a question like this. So he says, if, however, he's got a stepfather, and he says, make me a tea, and your mother says, make me a coffee, so then you give your mother first. Because his whole kibbutz on the stepfather is only because of your mother. So now she comes first. Or vice versa. Yeah, stepmother and the father. Then, well, they won't apply anyway because it's his father first. He said, but in this case with the mother, With the stepfather, your mother would come first. That's another interesting point. And then he says, what happens? We know parents can be mochel their covered, and you're supposed to a certain degree, not stand on the chiyuv kibbutz. It's very hard mitzvah to do, so you should make it a little bit easier. Some things you should be backed on, like not sitting in chairs. If you've got a chair at the top of the table, you should make a point, not let your kids sit there. So but not to stand up every time you come in. It says derech you should be easy going with it. But so he says like this. So you got a chiyuv covered on your stepfather or your stepmother. But what if your father says to you, "I'm mochel the covered"? So you wouldn't have to honour your stepmother now because it's only a chiyuv because of your father. And your father's mochel on it. Or it's only a chiyuv through your mother and she's mochel on it. So he says in such a case, it's not automatic. Parents, it's an automatic chiyuv kibbutz. But on a step, it's only because by virtue of being married to his mother or by virtue of being married to his father. So if the real parent was mochel on the covered, you wouldn't have to be mechaber them. And then he talks about a very interesting point. The kibbutz of aim is on the first half of the luchos. It's on the sad ben adam lamakon. And as far as we know, parents are people. Right? So the big debate, why is it on the first side? So the Ramban says something very beautiful. He said, Kibbutz of Aim is an extension of the covenant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the creator of everything. And your parents have a connection with him in the creation of you. So honouring your parents is honouring HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's honouring the creator. The Chinuch has a similar idea. You've got to learn HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you can't do it straight. So you need parents to be grateful to them, and then you take your HaKadosh Torah a stage higher, and you learn it from your parents, and then you take a stage higher to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's a stepping stone to honouring Hashem. So the Minchas Chinuch asked a wonderful question. He said, the extra covered you got to give to your parents, he said, is that a mitzvah ben on l'chaver, a mitzvah ben on l'makon? That means, if a person didn't do it, and it comes Yom Kippur, does he have to ask his parents mechila for these extra kibbudim which only parents have got, no other human beings got? He said, every other human being, the Torah says, don't be mitzayah him, don't upset him. Yeah, don't harm him. But with parents, there's a special chiyuv kibbut. He said, it could be, it's a benon lamakon, and you don't have to ask mechila. He said, or you could say, perhaps, yeah, it's a chiyuv on lamakon, but your father told you, Hashem told you to do it to people. So once it's given over to people, it does become a bit on the chaveiro, and you would. He said he's not sure, but it's food for thought. It's only food for thought. Now, it takes me scary now. Never thought about this before. Came across it this year. There's a course of preparing for this year. So you got Kabbalah Zavir Vesi Mecha, Leman Yarichin Yom Mecha. Why is it a school of Harichas Yomim? Looking after parents. What do most old people die of in old age homes?
Cancer.
No, neglect.
Was it?
Neglect. Ozumotam Shama. And they feel unwanted and thing, and they die of neglect. Do you know Down syndrome kids never used to live beyond the age of 30 because they were locked up somewhere and neglected and they died. Today they treat them like royalty and they tackle living now to 60 and 70 because they're not being neglected like they used to be. Chaim and I had a great uncle who passed away this year. He was 100. He had a big Arichas Yomim. And my mother told me he got married late in life. Why? He was the youngest child of his parents, the youngest of 10, 11 kids. He wouldn't get married while he was looking after his elderly parents. And when they passed away, then he got married. And he was Mekayim the mitzvah. He had Arichas Yom Rishonim, Mamash, keep shutter. He had Arichas Yom with the bookies as well, but quite incredible. He Mamash had Arichas Yomim, and in his later years, he moved back to America, and his own son made sure he was in an old age home. You know, he had Arichas Yomim. Look at this. So if you honour your parents, your kids will see that, and they'll honour you when you're older. So therefore, it's a school of Arichas Yomim because you didn't neglect your parents. So in your old age, your children won't neglect you. I once saw as a kid in the Jewish Tribune, a very interesting story. It brought this out in such a clever way. It showed a story. It said a story about this man. His father grew old. He was on his own. The son found him in an old age home, middle of nowhere, left him there and dumped him there basically, and never ever visited him. And you read the story, and it really makes it sad how he neglected his father and left him on his own, never visited him, never gave him no nachas at all. So if you just isolate the picture, that's what it looked like. The son was neglecting his father. And then the story carried on. And 30 years earlier, when it came to his father, had to go to an old age home. That's the way he did his father. So the son learned from his father. That's what you do with an elderly father. And so he did it to his father. Your children will see in you the way you look after your parents. That's the way they look after you. So it's a school of Arichas Yomim, because there won't be any neglect. Now, what's the next mitzvah in the Torah, in the Aseret Dibros? It's unbelievable. La Yitzchak, don't murder. A child can murder his parents, either by neglect, leaving them, not looking after them, providing what they need, or worse. And I tell this to boys in school. Sometimes. I said to them, you should know, parents are giving and giving and giving. Parents' love for children is very, very strong. Perhaps the strongest love there is in the world. So I said to them, they don't expect much back. Parents don't expect much back. And the more nachas you give, the better. I said, but if you give them the opposite of nachas, as one of my kids once said to me, brilliant, they were eating nice around the table. So I said to them, they were only little, about 5 or 6, I said, you're giving me such nachas, the way you're eating. And one of them turned around and said to me, and when we don't eat nicely, we give you bad nachas. That was a great hagdorah. I said to the boys, but when parents give, and if the child gives them aggravation, I said it's like stabbing them in the heart, because they've only got love, feelings of love, and then to throw it back in their face and totally neglect it. The Torah is telling us lo sitzach. A person can be over lo sitzach passively or even actively with parents. That's why it's put together. Whenever the Torah puts two things together in close proximity, the Torah is hinting to something. So the Tana de Belial says it's talking about looking after them in the old age. Think about it. In the days when there's no welfare state, if a person was old and couldn't work, he had nothing. So the words, this is what the Tana de Belial says. La medcha. Why is it next to la sitzach? A person's got plenty of food in his house, and doesn't give some to his parents in their old age. Unbelievable. Not unbelievable. Now there's a halacha. You're allowed to give your stocking money to your parents. You're allowed to give your mice money to your parents. But the Gemara says if you've got other money, you shouldn't use your stocking money because it's a bit billig to use it. But if you're attacking no other money available, you've got to give it to your parents. You give it to your parents, no problem. They've got first claim to it. You've got to look after your parents first, right? There's some families where they're a really good example of kibbutz of aim. There was I just want to know a little bit. The old Mr. Bamberger, when he was in hospital at the end of his days, 1998, the family never left him on his own. Nowadays, it's a sakana, especially now COVID, but Stammer, once they're over 85, 80, if there's no family care or people on the lookout, they get neglected in hospital. They've got no time for old people anymore. They had 24 hours. One of the brothers was there by his father. They never left him for a moment. Fortunately, he passed away in hospital. But the family, they had a rota and they never left him alone. I remember, I was only young at the time, but it was just, I remember it because I knew some of the family, so we know them quite well. It always sticks with me that they were busy people, and every excuse you can come up with, and this and that. No, they never left him on his own. He was looked after, or cared, at least there was someone there the whole time while he was in hospital. And that's a wonderful, wonderful dogma of Kibbutz Avei. Okay, and just to finish off, the Torah finishes off with Lo Sachmoid. So the Ebenezer asks a wonderful question. The Ebenezer asks, he said, how can you stop a thought entering your head? Oh, I fancy that car. Or I fancy a house like that. It's Teva Adam to think like that. You see something really good, really cool, and really special. So you think, oh, I fancy one of those. I wouldn't mind having that one of them. So he said, why? Well, how can the Torah forbid it? So the Ebenezer gives an interesting mashal. He said, imagine a country boy, a farmer's boy, goes to the capital city, and he sees the whole procession. What is it? He sees carriages. He asks, what is it? He said, oh, the princess is driving through town. So he joins the queue, and he's watching, and he sees as the princess goes past, and she's waving. He says, does it enter his head that he could marry that princess? He said, not at all. He understands there's no way he can marry this princess. It doesn't enter his thought process. Maybe one day I could marry her. So sometimes you see, there is a concept in your mind of something is so out of bounds or so not possible, not shaykh, you don't even think about it. So it says there, but Ezra, we have to live. This is what the Torah is telling us. You have to understand everything Hashem is giving you. That is what you need, and that's what you have to have. If what you haven't got, pshat is not pshat. You haven't got it, or you couldn't get it, or whatever. No. If you haven't got it, the Kosh Baruch Hu doesn't want you to have it. It could be it's no good for you. It could be it's dangerous for you. It could be the worst thing for you to have it. Whatever the cheshbon is. But he said you got the underlying mitzvah is the emunah shali what Hashem's got given me. That's mine for my purpose in this life. I've got this amount, and shalach. What you've got is yours, and the two can't meet. So if Hashem hasn't given it to me, it's because it's not good for me to have it, or I'm not supposed to have it, or if you are supposed to, you will get it. It will come if it has to come. But the point is, with the underlying emunah of being mistapik with what you've got, being mamin, that what you've got isn't b'mikra, it's not stam. It's cheshbon shamayim. He said, then Taka can control your thoughts, and Taka say, what I've got is mine, that's his, and I don't want that. It's possible. So then it is possible. Now we're told the dibros correspond to each other. So opposite lo sachmod, you've got kabbalah savicha vesimecha. Now let's think about this. There's a connection here. Very often a person can think, oh, why was I born to these parents? If I was born to different parents, things would have been different. It's the same mistake. There's a parallel. It's a parallel. You have to understand, if you want to keep those shachmai, understand there's a cheshbon, why you've got what you've got. You have to understand there's a parallel there. The parents you've got, it was only possible for you to come into the world by, your neshama could only be brought into the world by your parents. It's all bashkacha pratis. It's not stam. It's not stam you were born. There's a cheshbon and shemaim going on. And if you keep those shachmai, you're able to do kibbud av v'em as well, because you understand those are the parents Hashem gave me. They're the parents I've got to look after. Those are the parents who I've got to live with. And if you can live like that with that emunah, then the sachmai goes with it, because it's a parallel. It's an underlying thing. It's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me. That's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you can then genuinely be mistapik with what you've got. Okay, guys, stop there.
Danke.
What's connection?
Yeah. It's called